Hello and welcome yet again to another edition of Get Outside St. Tammany, a show dedicated to all things outdoors in St. Tammany Parish. And just like we do every month, the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries has come in again to let us know about some things that they have going on. And just like last month, we're talking fishing, and Carl Britt is here to talk about fishing. I believe last month we talked, you said we were talking off camera, inland fishing.
Correct.
And now we're talking about Lake Pontchartrain and some of those areas that many fishermen are familiar with, even those who don't fish a whole lot. So I guess before we get into that, talk about your role with the department and how you work the waterways.
Okay. Well, I am with the marine fisheries portion of wildlife and fisheries. We're worked out of Lacombe, and we cover marine research east of the river. North of the MRGO channel, so basically the northern half of the Pontchartrain Basin from the Lacombe office. And we're involved in all the research and activity that takes place with all marine species in that portion of the Pontchartrain Basin.
Most of what we're talking about today is fish. So
right.
A predominant species.
We cover shrimp, crabs, oysters, the full gamut. Right?
Is the season coming for all of that? I mean, it's an obvious question, but shrimp season, crabbing season. I mean, we're about to hit May. We're about to hit April, I guess.
Right.
So what's the hot thing to catch right now?
Well, yeah, shrimp season will be coming in pretty soon. We're beginning our crash samples, as we call them. We kind of step up our sampling at this time of the year, looking for juvenile shrimp that are immigrating into the estuary, watching their growth, preparing to set the season. Our oyster season is still it's still open. It's still guys working our oyster beds and in some of the areas that are open right now. Crabs, I've heard good reports. We recently had a seasonal closure, which I'm sure everyone's aware of, and that ended last week. So crabbing is back open commercially, and was open recreationally throughout the seasonal closure. Just no use of traps during that time. But have heard of some nice catches of very large male crabs, in the last month. So it seems to be a good spring coming towards us. It really does, and fishing should be heating up, right about now.
It's not just good for those catching it, it's for all of us that eat it.
Absolutely.
And all that good stuff.
That's
good news. Talk about, we're really talking about Lake Pontchartrain and what all is available there. So just broadly, I mean, I know you could probably go on for 10 minutes about what all you can fish for or catch on Lake Pontchartrain, but start, if you were looking for one thing, what would it be?
The lake is probably, most known for spotted sea trout, specks. That's probably the most widely targeted species on the lake. But I mean, depending on where you're fishing and what type of bait you're using or what technique you're using, I mean, you can really span out or broaden out your target. Anything from red drum, black drum, sheep's head, croaker, white trout, flounder, are all available. Mm-hmm. And just about most locations that you fish around the lake. Sometimes where you fish and how you fish may be determined by the conditions on any particular day, but just about any of the opportunities that are out there would produce any of those species.
Maybe hone in on two examples. One, let's talk to the beginner, who hasn't mm-hmm. fished a mm-hmm. lot. What would you recommend they do if this weekend, beautiful weekend, we want to go fishing? Don't know much about it. What would you suggest? Where should they go? What should they be looking for? What kind of bait? Right. And is it that easy?
Well, first of all, do a little research.
Yeah.
You want to have a good idea of wind forecast for one thing. Our shallower inland bays, which Lake Pontchartrain would be, large bay, but just 10-mile-an-hour wind could make it very sporting. If you're going out onto the water. So to do a little research, get an idea of what the wind forecast is, have an idea of what the tidal movement is, whether it's incoming, outgoing, tidal range, things like that. You can find there's a plethora of websites where you can go to get for information for salinities and water temperatures and things like that. So I would definitely recommend doing a little research before going out and having a better idea of what to expect once you get there. Most old-time anglers would tell you want to fish on a falling tide. It's not necessarily the case, falling tide or rising tide, because so many of the structures we have in the lake, like the bridge spans and whatnot, or you can fish whether coming or going. You just don't want to be there on a stagnant tide or when the tides are just not moving. As far as for salinity, of course, and water temperature, you tend to do better when the salinity is a little higher, when the water temperature comes up. So as we move further into the spring and those conditions, improve in the way of water temperature and salinity, those are the things you'll be looking for when you go out to make that trip. So.
What about for the guy looking for more of a challenge? What would you, there maybe you're
challenge?
intermediate, yeah. You want to make it hard on yourself, for lack of a better. What would be something different to do out there?
You may just, as far as for challenging yourself, just go after species that are maybe a little more difficult to catch, or use different types of artificial lures and baits and things like that may be a little more challenging than just going out and dropping live bait in the water. Or just get out and look for new areas to fish, somewhere you've not been before, maybe somewhere you're not as familiar with.
Is there a hidden gem, in your opinion, whether it's in St. Tammany or anywhere? Is there a spot that you go, I wonder why people don't come here?
Everybody that fishes regularly on the lake, I'm sure, can tell you at least one. And the beauty of it is, Davis, is that the lake is so productive, and there's so many opportunities all around the lake. Like I said, the bridge spans, artificial reefs, piers that have been built, all these different things that are available to people, and they're all productive areas to fish, just depending on a given day or a given bait or technique. So yeah, a true hot spot. Like I said, ask 10 different fishermen and you'll find 10 different hot spots.
You mentioned artificial reefs. This is something somewhat new. There's more artificial reefs now than there had been. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Since the first one came on, I think it was 2000. There's actually 11 artificial reef sites throughout the lake now, and it's just an opportunity for enhanced habitat. We created, some bottom relief, some structure there where normally it may just be flat or barren bottom. And these things really attract a diversity of wildlife or a diversity of water life. Even within the first couple of weeks, there's already, algae and barnacles and things like that growing on these things. And in a very short time, you have juvenile fishes or small forage fishes and invertebrates that inhabit, looking for a source of food and for, some shelter to kind of get away from the big fish. And then, of course, that does draw those game fish in that our anglers are looking for.
That's got to be a rewarding part of your job too, to see something you don't really probably know how it's going to turn out, and then see it blossom and grow.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose, like I said, is enhancing habitat, creating fishing opportunities for our anglers, and just overall improving the health of the lake itself.
We've had segments on the fishing pier in Slidell as a standalone, but let's talk about that for a few minutes. Is the pier at this time of year, what can you tell us? Good spot? I know it's a good spot, but what would you recommend?
Right, yeah, and it's become far, more and more popular, as it's been there. It's spring fishing on the pier, or any of the piers really. It is very similar to fishing around the lake. As the conditions improve as far as for water temperature coming up, of course the fishing gets better, and so really it's a good opportunity. And this spring is really shaping up to be a good one. We are so much better off this spring than we were last year. We had the early spillway opening in 2016. We had those horrible flood activity or events that took place, and also, but those events put a lot of fresh water and a lot of river water into the lake, made it dirty. It depressed the temperature, it depressed the salinity, and it made it challenging, really challenging to to fish on the lake last year. So we are in a much better condition this year, and it's looking like it's going to be a good season.
Outstanding. So lots of good stuff to look forward to across the board. Carl, it's nice to have you here, and we'll look forward to having you back sometime. And we'll be back right after this message.
But it would be safe to keep your distance until there's no secret that laughter makes you smile. Reliable sources say that chicken soup has found their way out of this dangerous, but until they are returned.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
And welcome back. And we are here with a kind of an interesting story. I think we're going to be talking about I don't know if it's rare or a species or whatever, but the monarch butterfly. Amy Nichols here to talk about what she and some other enthusiasts are doing to try to get this insect. Is it insect, right?
Yes, it is.
Showing my ignorance on butterflies and anything else. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your group first, and then we'll get into the monarch, and then what you all are trying to do to get them back.
Well, what it is it's a group of monarch butterfly enthusiasts that are going to be installing a official monarch way station.
What is exactly, for someone like I don't, what is a way station?
Way station is a garden for the monarchs with the nectar and the host plant for the monarch butterflies.
I got you. Okay, so that'll be in Slidell and Salmon. Any particular reason why it's in that area, or how you choose an area to have these types of way stations?
Well, this one happens to be in a nature park.
I got it.
And anybody can put one in their yard and have it registered as a official monarch way station.
Is that common? Do you see the average person do it, or do you got to know a little bit about what you're doing?
No, you can read up on it. There's a lot of information out there on the various websites. Bring Back the Monarchs, Monarch Joint Watch. There's also a tagging program where people can tag them and put numbers on them.
So that's, that basically, if someone wants to go online and find out, they've got plenty of resources, right?
Right. And they can find out for their area what the host plants are and the nectar plants for various butterflies, but this particular one is the monarch. And the host plant for the baby butterflies is the Asclepias, which is known as milkweed.
And you actually brought us something to look at here, I believe, right, for milkweed. And is that's one of these that we're looking at on top?
On the top of it, these are specially selected host plants and nectar plants. And the host plant is the Asclepias, which is the milkweed, and it is the only plant that the monarch butterfly caterpillars eat. The top two, or the tropical milkweed, which is not native. It's like a Mexican milkweed. They have the silky gold and the scarlet. And then the other four, they have a giant milkweed. They have an aquatic milkweed, which seems to do good in a dry situation that has been trialed Mississippi State for extension in Poplarville for garden trials. There's also a swamp milkweed and a butterfly milkweed.
Got it. Let's back up one step. What is why do we need monarchs back? And what's the status of them? For somebody again like me, I didn't know they weren't as prevalent as they were.
Well, they used to be millions of them, and they were overwintering in Mexico. And in the springtime, they migrate throughout the United States. They start off on the southern Gulf Coast in Texas, and they go all the way up to Canada, which is like a 3,000-mile round trip. When they come back down, there's like 4 generations of them.
That's pretty
And
fascinating.
It is, and it's the only insect that travels that long distance to migrate.
Yeah.
So.
And so there's just not as many of them in this
No,
area?
there's not
or,
as
or
many.
in general, or?
There's not as many as there used to be because of various reasons, because of crop spraying and spraying the edges of fields, and so the milkweed, it wasn't available, and also because of the cold winter in Mexico a couple of years ago, and so they were on the decline, and they're trying to reestablish milkweed for the monarchs.
It's not
And
as
then
easy
also,
to go to just a store and do this, right? I believe you were telling me that. It's more complex.
right. The tropical milkweed is available at some of the bigger chain stores and some of the nurseries. But people are just now finding out that there is a native, or there are several native milkweeds. The problem is that they're native, they're in the wild, and so to get them commercially available, you have to take steps to be able to go through the problems that may come up with some of the pest and controlling some of that, so that you can, in a natural way, because monarchs are very sensitive to any kind of pesticide, including organic. So the best way to get rid of, say, aphids is to just spray it off gently with water, or take a little brush and brush it off.
Got it. I'm again referring back to my cheat sheet here. I see sunflowers and other things here. Are sunflowers part of this project, or is it exclusively milkweed, or how does that work?
Well, in order for the monarchs to survive, they're going to need nectar plants, which there are specific ones that are chosen for their nectar value. There's garden phlox. Ironweed is a native plant. Bee balm, which is Monardia. Mountain mint. Coneflowers, which is Echinacea. Gara, and Joe Pye weed is a native. And then, of course, your ornamental flower, zinnia, has plenty of nectar in it, and that is a good source for them when they're coming through in the springtime, if it's available. And in the fall time, the adult monarchs definitely need these nectar plants so that they will have enough food so that they can make that journey back to Mexico.
This is very interesting. I mean, it's just not anything, the average person, unless you really know what you're talking about, would have any clue that this was a problem and something that a group, fortunately, is looking out for and trying to rescue, so to speak. Any kind of events planned to recognize what or educate people on what you're doing, anything the public could be aware of?
Well, there is going to be an event at Camp Salmon in Slidell on May the 13th, and this is going to be in celebration of the Monarch Way Station garden being complete. It's going to be free, open to the public, and there's going to be plenty of experts and to answer questions, and also to hand out material and information on monarch butterflies and other things too.
So it's almost like a ribbon cutting of sorts.
Right, it is.
Yeah, I see.
And Dan Gill is going to be there from the LSU Ag Center, and we're going to have somebody from the Audubon Institute Insectarium, and of course Linda Auld is going to be there. She's known as the Bug Lady from New Orleans, and she's raised many and released many butterflies.
Yeah.
So she is heading up this project, and she's done an awesome job on, coordinating and planning and
Right.
and preparing for this event.
I see, I'm looking at some of the things going on. I see there's going to be a butterfly release.
Yes.
So how does that, again, a very ignorant question, how does that work? Where do the butterflies come from, and then how are they released?
Probably Linda raised them. Usually they have it's in a net container, and then they just release them and they just flutter on out.
Yeah, but I guess they'll be attracted to what all you've grown.
Right. We had Linda had come out and released some at Crosby Arboretum, and it was just awesome to watch it, because there's a new children's pollinator garden there, and there are plenty of signed examples of native milkweeds growing in that garden now, and all the nectar plants, and it's just a wonderful thing to watch.
In general, are these gardens meant, outside of the May 13th event, can the family come to one of these gardens and observe, or does it really have to be a planned deal where someone who knows what they're doing is on hand to educate?
They can just come out and enjoy it. Crosby Arboretum in Picayune, like I said, has got a pollinator garden, and it's got a lot of the different milkweeds in raised beds, and they are labeled so that you're able to go out there and see nature in work. And the monarchs usually come through the Gulf Coast region. The prime date is about the 3rd week of October. If you go onto the coast on Highway 90, between Highway 90 and the beach, you can see hundreds of them, going through. And they're looking for nectar plants. So they really need some of these fall flowering nectar plants, so they can have enough fuel to make it back to Mexico. Fascinating
stuff, Amy. I'm glad you did come and educate us about this, because I would think that not only does it sound like it's needed, it's something the family can enjoy, and a great visual time. Best of luck to you all, and especially on May the 13th as this is unveiled. Appreciate it. And we thank you for tuning in to us again this month, and we'll be back next month with another edition of Get Outside St. Tammany.